Hey there, I'm Sierra Bailey with Doers, Shakers, Makers. And today, let's have a quick conversation about how to be the best Zoom meeting participant ever. I'm sure that's exactly what you want to know, but I want to give you a few quick tips that can make your participation in your next Zoom meeting more enjoyable for you and for everybody else in the room. All right, where should we start? I think with the thing that everybody will appreciate the most, and that is you becoming friendly with the mute button. So the person who sets up the meeting, the host, sometimes selects that when you enter, you are muted. That, however, is not always the case. So the first thing you should do when you come into a Zoom meeting is to look to see if you are muted. Hey, maybe a good practice is to always mute yourself when you start the meeting and only unmute if you have something to contribute. If not, if you are, let's say, having a happy hour with friends or joining family on, you can absolutely be unmuted the whole time. But if you're in a meeting of over 3 people, it's usually good practice to put that mute button on. And the host can also mute you. So before you talk, always glance at your photo, see if you see that little mute button on the corner, and make sure that you are unmuted before you talk. You can always do one of these if somebody is also talking and you can't hear them because they may not realize that the host muted. Why do we do this? Well, Zoom has a habit of picking up a lot of the background noise. So if you have kids or dogs, or even if something like happens, it's going to draw the attention away from their screen to your screen. There is a way, if you are the host, to click on the little chevron down by the share screen and make it so that multiple people can speak at the same time. That helps prevent that. But if that is not selected, if you do that, it's going to completely distract the entire meeting if you are not muted. So speaking of distractions, doing things like walking around your house, going from room to room, while either holding your phone in front of your face like this so that everybody is watching you not really look at the phone, but kind of look at the phone and walk around, that's super distracting for people in the meeting. So in addition to muting yourself, also hiding your camera is a really good idea if you have to get up and change locations. When you join Zoom, you can upload a photo of yourself. So when you're popping out, you can just pull that headshot up. Automatically, when you're shutting off the camera by hiding it, it will do that. And then they know that you're moving around for a moment. No big deal. People would much rather see your lovely headshot or photo that you've uploaded than you running around and distracting the whole meeting. Now, speaking of distractions, what do you do if your spouse or your child or your partner or your animal suddenly jumps into the video? Well, these days there's no need to be embarrassed or shy. Absolutely introduce them. Say, hey, this is my partner, Sally. Or, oh, this is Fido. How cute is Fido? Just acknowledge it if you need to. If it's a huge meeting with a lot of people, just be quiet and get them out of the photo. If you need to give some attention to that spouse, partner, pet, or child, absolutely. What have we learned? Hide that camera, mute that sound, and no problem. Have a conversation with them. Get to whatever you need. We all understand that, especially during times when you're working from home in the middle of your family being home or your roommates being home or you're being maybe in a crowded situation, a conversation may need to happen, but you don't have to distract everybody from that. Hide your camera and mute. I also want to bring up something that a few people have mentioned recently in some Zoom trainings I've been doing, that if you set up Zoom a long time ago, you may not have paid attention to the name that you entered, or you may be pulling from somebody else's account. So if you're in a group meeting where somebody is going to need to either take attendance or call on you, make sure that when you go in, if you click on the little people icon at the bottom of your Zoom window, you will see your own name and you have an opportunity to rename yourself. So put your first and last name in there, or just your first name if appropriate, so people know who you are. So if they need to call on you to make sure that you're participating, that they know who you are instead of trying to read a weird username. And speaking of that, if you are in a group where you're having, let's say, a happy hour or a coffee connection or a meeting with your team, and you know that one of the people in that team tend to be a little bit more on the introverted side and don't know how to jump in, make sure that they're being called on so that they can contribute as well. And even saying, hey, Peter, did you have anything that you wanted to add? Because sometimes certain people will just have a little bit of a hard time doing that interrupting jump in. It's a little bit easier for them to be called on than to make that jumping on in. So another thing, speaking of people jumping on in, and besides your calling on introverts, is to sometimes do a quick round of introductions if everybody does not know each other. Maybe your host has forgotten or just isn't familiar. So by raising your hand, which besides the little people icon, when you pull that up of having your name, or you can change and seeing who's in that room, you can actually raise your hand virtually with a little hand raise or give a thumbs up. There are a few different symbols in there. Below that is the chat. So if you click on, besides the little people button, the chat button, you'll see that there's an opportunity for you to communicate with everybody. You can communicate to everyone in the group. You can communicate in a private message if you and somebody in the group start to talk a little more in depth. Perhaps there's a quick side conversation that you need to have. Don't have it publicly if it's really not necessary, but I would say to refrain from saying anything that you wouldn't publicly, because sometimes when people think it's in private, it is not. Use your manners when you're in that chat room in case you forget to do it privately. But also make sure that if you're trying to talk to the whole group that you do have it set to everyone. So besides that chat feature and the raising hand feature, another thing that a lot of people do when there's a big group meeting is they'll record the meeting. So again, etiquette wise, when you come into that meeting, look at the recording button and know that what you're saying can be recorded and that people will be watching it later. So don't say anything that you don't want to end up on the internet at some point. It's just a good way to think about the reality of what it is when you are in a big recorded Zoom meeting. So now you can see I have, yes, this is my real office, the background behind me. I have been doing Zoom meetings for a long time, so I have it set up to have a background behind me. If you don't, if you are, for example, in a corner of your kitchen and you don't want to have your kitchen counters behind you, well, it works best with a blank wall, but you can use the Zoom backgrounds. So you can go to the little chevron on the bottom by your video camera and click on that, and you'll see the option to add a virtual background. You can upload your own. I will say, as somebody that works with talented tiny business owners, hey, do a little branding. Nothing wrong with that. But don't do it with anything distracting. Do it with something that people are going to want to stare at, and know that it's basically a green screen, so your ears may cut out and things like that. If, however, you do have a choice to go somewhere in your home or somewhere, in your house, your apartment, or something that has a nice background where nobody can walk behind you, that's ideal. Because as soon as people are able to walk behind you, that's where those things that we keep seeing on bloopers popping up of a spouse maybe not fully dressed end up walking behind that screen. So be polite to those that you're in a house of. Try to remove yourself so you're not yelling at people to be quiet. Go put yourself into a little corner of the house. Nobody cares if you're sitting on your bed and the headboard is there. We all understand that sometimes we have to Zoom from places, but try to make sure your background's appropriate and respect those around you, that they don't accidentally end up in your Zoom meeting. So that brings me to all the things that I'm talking about are on camera. Should you be on camera for your Zoom meeting? Please try to show up and be on camera. Whoever is holding the meeting is using Zoom because they want your face to be there. One, you're going to have a bigger connection with the people in the group if you are showing up on camera. Two, if you are going somewhere where there is a host or somebody who is perhaps coming in as a guest speaker, they really appreciate looking out onto faces, not onto just black boxes. So if you're coming to a Zoom meeting where the person holding the meeting is expecting you to participate and show up, then have your camera on. And hey, there is a thing that you can put on that kind of is like Vaseline on the screen, but put a little attention into your appearance. By that I mean maybe not a bathrobe, because people may talk about you with that. Put your hair in a ponytail. I haven't washed my hair in days, but I have it up in a ponytail to at least a little bun thing going on. Looks somewhat presentable. That's all anybody is asking. You don't have to put on full makeup, but if you feel that you are going to be seeing people on camera, think about how you would feel if you were going to see them out in the real world. Nobody will know if you're wearing pants if you don't stand up, but at least put forth the image of yourself that you would put forth in seeing people in public. And One last thing, make sure that you are engaging. So don't be on your phone the whole time, because everybody in that meeting is going to feel like if you were sitting in any room with them and were looking down on your phone the whole time. Does this seem like I'm engaging and participating? No, it feels like I'm completely ignoring everybody in the meeting. So I am right now looking into the iris of the camera. That's why it feels like I'm looking into your eyes. I'm now looking at myself in my video camera recording window. I'm now looking at my eyes. Do you see the difference between when I'm looking into the iris of the camera and I'm looking at my reflection in my video? Yes. So try while you are speaking to the group to look into your camera lens. Try to have it positioned so that you do feel comfortable looking into the camera. Remember that you are talking to the group of people. It's fine when you're all talking if you're looking at each other, but don't stare at yourself in that camera or in that video window, especially if you're presenting on something while you're giving a report. Look at the people, engage, because you're there to connect with them, or you just have a phone call. Why use video if you could have done it in a phone call? So these are some basic tips that I have of how to engage in a meeting. I would love it if you enjoy these tips to let me know, or maybe subscribe to the YouTube channel. Always a fun way to stay up on what I have to say. I'm Sierra Bailey. I'm here to help you. I specialize in helping talented, tiny business owners have the business they want well past the startup phase, but that also means helping you do things like participate in Zoom. I have doers, shakers, makers, and would love to tell you about it. Reach out if you want to know more, and thank you so much for watching today. I hope you are feeling like you're now ready to be a much better Zoom meeting participant. Get out there, engage, connect with people, make the most of what we have these days, and thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day.